Okay, now we're going to do the second half of our Algebra 1 second trimester review. Okay, we're going to start with problem 21, and it says which of the following systems of linear equations intersect at exactly one point. Okay, so 1 point would tell me that the slopes are different because they're going to intersect and they're going to cross. So for slopes to cross, we have to have different slopes. If they had the same slope, they would be parallel lines. There would be no answers that are the same. If it had all answers the same, then it would be the same line. So I need to take these two equations and find out what the slope is. They're not in slope-intercept form, so I'm going to work through them. I'm going to go ahead and work on the side over here. I have negative 2x plus 4y is equal to 3, negative 3. So I'm going to add 2x to both sides. Okay, so it's gone over here. I now have 4y, and I have 2x minus 3. Divide by 4, divide by 4, divide by 4. So now I have y is equal to 2 over 4 is 1/2 x minus 3 over 4. Okay, so that's the first one. That's my first slope. I'm going to go ahead and write it over here by my problem so I don't forget what it is. So y is equal to 1/2 x minus 3 over 4. Okay, then I'm going to erase this. I don't need this anymore. That's the old problem. Now I'm going to try the other one and see what the slope of the other line is. Okay, and if I end up with different slopes, then I know I found my answer choice. Okay, so I've got 3x plus 8y is equal to 3. Subtract 3x from both sides. I have 8y. Move my negative 3x to the front. Plus 3. Divide by 8. Divide by 8. Divide by 8. And now I have y is equal to negative 3 over 8 x plus 3 over 8. And I don't need to worry about that, simplifying it anyway. So now I have my two lines, negative 3 over 8x plus 3 over 8. And now I look at the slope. Right here's my slope for this one, and right here's the slope for this one. Do I have different slopes? I have a slope of 1/2 and I have a slope of negative 3 over 8. And I do. So lucky for me, it's the first answer. I don't have to do any more work. If it wasn't, then I'd have to go to the next one and I would have to do the work there. Okay, so I'm going to erase my work over here. Alright, then the next one, number 22. 22 says, which of the graph best describes the solution of the system of equations? Okay, so I've got 4 graphs I'm going to choose from. Okay, the first one is not in slope-intercept form, so I need to put this in slope-intercept form. So I'm going to subtract x from both sides. And now I have y is equal to negative x plus 3. So I've got that one, and this one is already in slope-intercept form. So I'm looking at these two equations now. Okay, so now I've got one that's a negative slope and one that's a positive slope. I look at graph A. These are both negative. Won't work. Look at graph B. Okay, this is a negative slope and a positive. Okay, so now I need to look at it further. Okay, my negative slope is crosses at the positive 3. That works. But let's see my positive slope. Positive slope is supposed to cross somewhere at 6, and it doesn't. That's too low. 6 is going to be up here above the 3. Doesn't work. Okay, so again, my negative slope is right here, and it's supposed to cross at positive 3, but it looks like it's below there. It's at a negative. That doesn't work, so I'm thinking it's this one, but let me just verify. My positive slope, which is this one, it should cross at 6. Right there it is. My negative slope, which is this line, it should cross at positive 3, both of them. That's my answer. Okay, the next one. Number 23 says which graph shows And now I have two inequalities. They're not in slope-intercept form, so that's the very first thing that you need to know. Put this one in slope-intercept form. It's not there. So I need to move my x to the other side. So I'm going to subtract x here and subtract x there. I've got y. I don't need to flip the sign because I did not divide by a negative number, so I keep my sign the same. Okay, so now I've got this one and that one. Alright, so now I've got my two that I can now go through and look at the graphs. Looking at graph A. Okay, I have a positive slope here, a negative slope here, just like last time. Okay, the negative slope is a dashed line because there's no line under it. Is this negative slope a dashed line? It's not. It's solid, so it's not A. Look at B. They're both dashed lines. Are both of them dashed lines? No, that has a line under it. That one doesn't. It's not B. Okay, I'm going to move down a little bit to letter C. Oh, sorry. Okay, so now, and I lost my equation. Okay, so I'm write it down here. I'm looking for these two. Sorry. I'm looking for y, and I'm looking for negative x plus 2 and 2x plus 1. Okay, so now I got them, so I've written them down lower so I can see. Okay, so now here's my negative slope right here. Right here's my negative slope. Right? This is a negative slope. It's dashed, which is good. And here's a negative slope. That's dashed. There's the positive slope. Okay, so these two, they look the same. Now I need to look. Where are they shaded? If I look at my negative slope should be shaded below the line. So I look at my negative slope, it's shaded below the line. Yes, it is. Okay, then I look at my positive slope. Is my positive slope shaded below the line? And it is. So I found my answer choice. Remember, if it's on the little side, it's below the line. If it was on the big side, it'd be above, but they're both on the little side, so they're both below the line. So I found my answer choice. Alright. Now on to the next page. We've got problem 24. Okay, select the graph of the systems of inequalities. Again, we need to find and put them in slope-intercept form. So I'm going to do some work over here so I have some space to work. Here's the first one. And I'm going to go ahead and do the second one. And then we'll work through it and put them in slope-intercept form. Okay, so I'm going to subtract x from both sides of the first inequality. Now I have negative y. I'm going to keep the sign for now. Put the x in front. Divide by negative 1. Divide by negative 1. Divide by negative 1. When I do that, what do I need to make sure I do with that sign? Flip it around. Negative and negative is positive x. Negative and positive is negative 4. So now I've got, and I'm going to write it over here, kind of in the middle, so in case I need to move down. Okay, so that's my one inequality I'm working with. The next one, I'm going to go ahead and subtract x from both sides. Now I have y. I keep the sign. Going to be a negative x plus 4. Okay, so now, do I need to do anything? I don't need to divide by negative 1 because it's already a positive y. It's a negative x plus 4. Okay, so now I've got my two inequalities to look at. Okay, I'm looking for one positive and one negative line. If I look at A, they're both positive slopes, so I'm not going to use that one. Okay, this one has a positive slope and then no slope, not that one. Okay, this one has a positive slope and a negative slope. They're both solid lines. That works for me. This one crosses at 1, 2, 3, 4. That's the positive slopes at negative 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. The negative slopes at a positive 4. Okay, so I'm good there. Now I just have to see where they're shaded. they're both shaded below the line. So this one shaded below the line here, and this one shaded below the line here. Do we find our answer choice? Letter C, we did. Okay, number 25 it looks like. Okay, I'm going to erase my work. Okay, a little bit more erasing to do here. Okay, so now I have a word problem. It says, while cleaning, Sabrina found a total of 17 coins under cushion. The coins were a combination of nickels, which is N, and D's that are dimes. The value of the coins totaled $1.25. How many nickels does she have? Okay, so we're going to set up two problems. We're going to set up one that gives us a total amount of coins. They said she found nickels and dimes, and when she counted those, not as value, just as coins, she got 17 coins. And then she said they've totaled $1.25. Well, I need to know what's the value of a nickel. A nickel is 5 cents. And then what's the value of a dime? It's 10 cents. And when you find out how many you get, you add those together to get 125. Okay, I don't like decimals, so before I do anything, I'm going to get rid of the decimals and move these over 2 places, 2 places, 2 places. So now I have 5n plus 10d is equal to 125. Alright, so now hopefully you see this and you can see that this is a system of equations. I can use the elimination method. I think I'm going to multiply and get rid of the d because I want to find what my nickels are. So I'm going to multiply everything by -10, this by a -10, and this by a -10, which would give me -170. Okay, I eliminated the d's. They're gone. How many n's do I have left? I have -10, +5, so I have a -5n. And then I have a 170 minus 125, and that's 45, and it's a -45. Divide by -5, divide by -5, and I have n is equal to 9. So I found out that we have 9 nickels. Okay, so if there's 9 nickels, in case it doesn't ask you about nickels, maybe it'll ask you about dimes, you would put 9 nickels plus, we don't know how many dimes, would be 17. Subtract 9 from both sides, and you'd have d is equal to 8. So in case it asked you maybe about dimes, you would be able to figure out the dimes also. Okay, and then if I did the math, 45 times 5 would give me 9 times 45. 9 times 5 is 45, which would give me 45 cents in nickels and 80 cents in dimes, and then I would have $1.25. So there's ways you can check that. Okay, next one. Alright, so now this one, you're just multiplying bases, so what do we do with those exponents? We are going to add them. So it is 3 plus 5 plus 2. So 3 plus 5 is 8, 8 plus 2 is 10. So y to the 10th power, which is letter D. This one, we want to find the area of the rectangle. To find the area of something, you multiply. So we're going to multiply 3a times a. A times a is a squared, so it's 3a squared. And that is our letter B. Okay, so the next page, we have which expression is equivalent to 2 times 4 x to the 4th power squared. So everything, this is power to power, everything inside there is brought up to the 2nd power. So it's 2 to the 2nd power, and 4 times, multiply bases, 4 times 2 is 8. So we have 4x to the 8th power. And I look at that, and it looks like it's letter A. Alright, this one. Now, if we just dealt with the numbers first, 45 divided by 9 you get 5. That's where the 5 came from. But at the bottom of that, we have z to the positive 3. Well, how did I get a positive 3 exponent at the bottom? It started off as a negative 3 at the top. Okay, we want to know what this letter is. So this is what they gave us. They gave us this. And they said, what is this number? Well, if this is an invisible 1, 1 minus what is going to give me a negative 3? And if you do the math on that, because remember when you're dividing bases, you're subtracting exponents, you would get 4, because 1 minus 4, you keep, change, you get z to the negative 3. And when you rewrote that, you put it over 1 over z to the third. So your answer choice is 4. All right, the next problem. If you have, you're going to distribute everything inside that parentheses to the second power. So we've got 3 to the second power, and then power to power, you multiply. So you have n to the negative 10. So 3 times 3 is 9. And if it's n to the negative 10, I want to make it positive by putting it to the bottom of my exponent, or at the bottom of my fraction. So I have 9 over n to the 10th power. Okay, number 31. 31. Again, you're dividing bases. We're going to subtract exponents. So I have r to the third and r. There's an invisible 1 here. I'm going to subtract. I get r to the second. And then we have s to the second and s to the fourth. Okay, we're dividing bases. We're going to subtract exponents. 2, keep, change. We have s to the negative 2. Okay, but remember, we don't want to have a negative exponent, so I'm going to take that s to the second and bring it down. And this is my final answer. R to the second, s to the second, and it looks like it is letter D. Okay, now go back to page number 32. 32, we are going to combine like terms. This is a subtraction problem, so everything, we're going to keep this, we're going to change this to addition, change this to positive, change that to negative, and change that to negative. And then we're going to go through and we're going to use our buckets. There's an A bucket, a B bucket, and a number bucket. So we have A here, negative 3B, and 5. And then we have an A again, a negative 2B, and a negative 3. So A plus A is 2A. Negative 2, negative 3 is negative 5B. And 5 minus 3 is 2. So I look for that choice. A minus 5B plus 2. So it's letter C. Okay, the next one. It says the sum of two binomials is 9x squared minus 7x. If one of the binomials is 5x squared minus 2x, what is the other binomial? So I have 5x squared minus 2x. Sum means you're going to add, and when you add them together, you're going to get 9x squared and negative 7x. So then I look at my answer choices. Well, 4 plus 5 is 9, but negative 9 and negative 2 is not 7. Then 4 and 5 is 9, and negative 5 and negative 2 is 7. So I found my choice right here. So if I did that and I put these in here, 4x squared, negative 5x. When I add these together, I get 9x squared. When I add these together, I get negative 7x. So I found my answer choice. Okay, the next one. The next problem says a living room is shaped like a rectangle. It has a width of 3 meters, or 3x meters and a length of 5x meters, so just a rectangle. It says which expression gives the area of the room. Area is, you multiply length times width. So I don't know, I'm just going to put 5x here and 3x here. I just have to multiply it. I get 15, and then x times x, x squared. So I'm looking for 15x squared. Okay, the next one. The next one is, I'm going to write it for me over here. I got negative 1/4 x. We're going to multiply it with 24 x squared plus 8x minus 4. Okay, when you're multiplying 1/4 times 24, that is pretty much, you're dividing 4 will go into 24 6 times. So we're actually dividing how many times will 4 go into each of these problems here. So 6 times. And then we have multiplying bases, we're going to add exponents. So it's 6x to the third. And one's negative, one's positive, so it's negative. 4 will go into 8 2 times. X times x is x squared. But one's positive, one's negative, so it's negative. 4 will go into 4 one time, and there's an x left, and then negative and negative is a positive. So I'm looking for negative 6x to the third, negative 2x to the second, plus x. So negative 6x to the third, negative 2x to the second, plus x. I found my answer choice. So when you're multiplying with a fraction, and if it's 1/4, you're really dividing. 4 will go into 24 6 times. 4 will go into 8 2 times. 4 will go into 4 one time. And then make sure you take care of the signs and the exponents on the variable. Okay, the last few problems here. They use a diagram to answer the question. I'm just going to go ahead and break this into a 2 by 2 box. They already kind of did it for me, so it'll make it easy. I'm going to multiply this, c plus 8 times c plus 2. So c times c, c squared. C times 8, 8c. C times 2, 2c, and 8 times 2, 16. Now I combine like terms. I have 1c squared, 8c, and 2c is 10c. So I'm adding them, plus 16. Okay, let's see if we can find our answer there. And it looks like it's letter C. Okay, the next problem. This is a division problem. We are actually going to divide 2 into this one. Going to do that and do that. So we got 4u to the third power. Okay, so I'm going to write this a little bit neater. So 4u to the third divided by 2u. Okay, so 2 will go into 4 2 times. If you're dividing bases, subtract. So it's u to the second. And then we've got 10u to the second divided by 2u. So 2 will go into 10 5 times. Subtract, and you got just a u. And then you've got the last part of this, that's a negative 6u divided by 2u. Okay, the u's cancel. 2 will go into 6, negative 3 times. So I'm looking for 2u to the second plus 6u minus 3. And it looks like it's letter D. Okay, last two. We're almost done. Okay, so now, if the area of a rectangle is 3x squared plus x minus 10, and the length is x plus 2, what's the width? Okay, so this is what it's asking you. It's telling you, this is the kind of information they gave us. 3x squared plus x minus 10, and one of the parts of the rectangle is this. We want to know what is this one over here. Okay, and how do we define that? We find that by multiplication. But remember we talked about when we were factoring, this is the answer, and we want to find out where it started. So this is actually a factoring problem with our x in our box. Okay, so we've got our first times our last, which is negative 30. Add together to give me 1. Two numbers that multiply together to give me negative 30, but add together to give me 1. I won't know one's negative and one's positive. And I go through my choices and I find out it's 6 and 5. Because when I multiply that, I get 30, negative 30, add together to get 1. Put my variables in here. Okay, now I'm going to make my box just a little bit bigger so I have space to write. Okay, now I've got to do the box. Why do I have to do the box? Because it has a coefficient that is greater than 1. Right here. Remember, only if it was a 1 we wouldn't have to do the box, but it's a 3, so we have to do the box. Okay, the first term goes here, 3x squared. The last term goes here, negative 10. These two go wherever I want to put them. Okay, now we're going to factor this way. What do these have in common? They have a 2. What do these have in common? They have an x. Okay, and there's a plus here. So there's our plus 2. Now we're going to go this way. What do these have in common? They both have a 3 and an x. What do these have in common? They both have a 5, and it is a negative. So we've got 3x minus 5, and then we have x plus 2. Okay, so they said we already have x plus 2. They gave us this one, and they said, what's the other one? And we found it, and it's right here, letter D. Okay, last one. This one, domain and range. A lot of people asked, what's domain and range, Mrs. Flores, again? Domain is your x values, and range is your y values. Remember, it's alphabetical order, domain, range, x, y. Input, alphabetical order, that's your x values. Output, that's your y values. So now we're looking for a list of our input, our x, our domain, which is 5, 7, 2, and 4. So domain 5, 7, 2, and 4. There's 2, 7, or 2, 5, 4, 7. 2, 5, 4, 7, and then my output or my range 0, 1, 5, 8. So I found it. You just have to look for the ones that are listed in that area there. Okay, this was a bit longer. Second half of our district assessment trimester 2 review. Hope you do well. Make sure you practice.